Welcome back, everyone, to America's Mom. We have been here live at Liberty University in Virginia at the NACL conference. That's the National Association of Christian Lawmakers. And for the first time, they invited international guests, diplomats who came to talk about what is happening in Europe. Rob Rose, who you have seen here on America's Mom before, I've had the incredible pleasure of sitting with him. He's a former member of the European Parliament and the former president of the Conservative Party of the Netherlands, is with me again. And if you did not catch our last interview, it is completely appropriate to go back and watch it again because it's relevant to what's happening right now. I had hoped it wouldn't be, but it looks as though things are just continuing to decline, honestly, in Europe. It's not getting any better. In fact, the Netherlands actually dissolved their government just last week. And Rob Rose is here to discuss all of these international impacts and what it's going to mean for America with us. Thank you so much for being here and for making this unbelievable journey to America for this meeting here with the NACL. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure. Great people, let me say that. It was amazing event, and I'm really happy to be here. Yes.
I think it's important to note also that you will be a founding member of the International NACL. This is the first time that they'll be expanding across the pond, and we hope for you to be a part of that and be a tremendous leader in this effort. I heard it said yesterday, and I think it's true, there's a ministerial presence when we're asking God to be a part of what we're doing. And so I can see that even though things look really bleak, and we're going to talk about that, God is still bigger. He's the X factor. So I appreciate you so much in your faith in what you're doing.
Yes, I think it has to be done by someone, and unfortunately, a lot of people in Europe are failing. Other ones are heading in a different direction than when we should go. So yeah, someone has to pick up the fight, and yeah.
Robert, you're very Trump-esque in the Netherlands. You're a very, very successful business owner. Sold multiple of your businesses in order to run for office so you could represent the people. Considered it whatever, I'll do it, just like Trump said.
Yes.
And now here you are again on the precipice of having to make a decision on how best to serve your country, the Netherlands. But more than that, I see how everyone looks to you for leadership and for guidance. You are a mentor in the European community. And tell me a little bit about that. Like what your role has been with leaders like George Simeon. I mean, there's 25 other countries over there that you're ministering to and mentoring through the mega events and all the associations you've had. What is that like for you?
Yeah, for me, it's something natural. I'm not really a politician. I'm a representative of the people. That's what I'm always saying. But it is something that I want to do by nature. I don't want to be in politics. I always said if someone else is doing the job in the right way, I'm fine. There are so many more nice things to do in life than to be in politics. It's really an ugly game. I try to stick close to myself, to be genuine in everything I do. And yeah, let's say, fortunately, we have also George Simeon is doing a great job. We have we have other great leaders like Viktor Orban, who is also going against the mainstream. But yeah, the real problem is the European Commission is very powerful, and they abuse all kinds of taxpayers' money to silence dissent, people who want to fight for sovereign nation states, to fight for the freedom of the people. And they abuse also all kinds of money to support their own narrative. So it's a big fight, difficult fight. We don't have the money. We don't have only our faith and our strength to move on. I'm still a boxer, and I always say it doesn't matter how much they knock you down. It's about how many times you stand up, and that's what I try to do. But again, it's a big fight. They also weaponize the judicial system to. We have seen Marine Le Pen, who was abandoned for running for office. She would have been the next president of France for sure. We need that kind of people in the European Council. There are two ways to change the course of the European Union. And one is that we have a majority at the European Council, that are the government leaders of all the 27 member states. And the other way is that the European Union collapse under its own weight.
Mm-hmm. How likely is that, do you think? I mean, we've had J.D. Vance make very strong statements against the European Union, not Europe at large, the European Union and their bureaucratic nonsense they're constantly doing to all of the nation states. How likely is it that it could fall?
In the end, it will. In the end, I'm sure. It's a Ponzi scheme. They put time and again more money in it, more debt, and it's just not sustainable. The only thing is the more time it takes, the bigger the mess will be. But it's just not a sustainable situation. They are heading for a super state.
And that would remove
all the
any sovereignty,
states.
right?
Yes, they remove all because if you take, Europe is such a beautiful continent. We have amazing history, amazing heritage, and if you take away the nation state and our heritage, then they achieve what they want to achieve, and that is that we are lost souls without any identity. Mm-hmm. Sweden is completely different than Italy, and the Netherlands is completely different than Spain, for example. But we have each member state has something beautiful in it. And let's say conservatives, doesn't matter where, from any European country, we share the same values, but we all have our own heritage, and that makes Europe so beautiful. If you see the culture, the architecture, it's really amazing, and I'm really proud of that. But they want to take that away, and that is, if they can achieve that, then they will centralize all the power, and we end up in something like the Soviet Union. That's what it is. It's socialism. It's maybe even communism. Now they want to have a war economy controlled by the European Union, the European Commission. And I'm worried about that, because this is what happened 100 years ago under Nazi Germany. It was private companies controlled by the state, and they want the super states to control that. That's the European Union, or the United States of Europe. That's what they want. And they want to have this war economy controlled by Brussels. And we should not do that. It's really a worrying development. Yeah.
Can you explain the impact of the Ukraine war on the region? I mean, we hear snippets all the time. We understand there's been, all kinds of money laundering, and just, it's a really there's a lot of bad things happening in Ukraine. We understand that, but what's been the impact at large on Europe?
Well, first of all, let's start with the beginning. It is an ugly war, and what Putin is doing is real evil. But it's not that that you have the good guys and the bad guys, that the Western world are the good guys and Russia is the bad guy. They are the bad guys, and the other side are also the bad guys. It is provoked, let's be honest. And when I was in the European Parliament, it was time and again, every day, maybe 10, 20 times a day, the unprovoked war, the unprovoked war. That was the narrative, and that was the thing that we, that was the accepted narrative, and you cannot go against that. Yeah,
they're just saying Russia has just made aggression at Ukraine for no reason. That would be what they mean by unprovoked.
Yeah,
Russia's just bad. Poor little Ukraine was just sitting here being awesome and amazing and trying to live free. Didn't want to join NATO. Wasn't doing anything at all. Just being free. and all of a sudden Russia just came out and just started blowing things up.
Yes, but it
That
was
is what you mean by that.
yes,
Unprivileged.
absolutely. But it was, of course, not suddenly. It was going on since 2008 when it was announced at a NATO summit that Georgia and Ukraine would become members of NATO, and it's really at the front door of Russia.
And they had always said, just to for people who don't understand the history of this, they the agreement with Russia was they would never join NATO,
Correct.
never. And actually, many other nation states had said they would never either. But
Yeah.
in the end, Ukraine is the one that Russia did not want to join. They had said they would not. That was the conditions of peace and
Yeah.
sovereignty.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. So, but what the impact is of course, yeah, the impact is huge on everything, on economics. Because let's start with energy. There was a lot of Russian gas coming in. President Trump, in his first term, has warned for that. That is, it's yeah. We were supporting the Russian bear.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the war in Ukraine, energy prices, they are 3 times higher, maybe 4 times higher than here in the United States, and we cannot compete with the rest of the world. And you know, energy is the source of everything. It's it's the nutrition of the machines.
So, for reference, would you say it's around $12 to $15 a gallon of gas, U.S. dollars?
Yeah, I have to transform that
Mhm.
because we don't have the gallon. But yes, but also just to the gas for we use gas to for the heating of our homes, and but not only that, it's also for our industry to produce all the things that we make. And now they say we cannot compete with the rest of the world. We are leaving Europe. So energy is one thing, of course. All the absurd regulations that the EU is coming with because of climate policy is also a huge problem. But people feel it in their wallet. People cannot afford the bill anymore. They cannot meet ends, and that's one thing. Second thing is, of course, the fear of escalation. And we have people like Macron, who is willing to bring boots on the ground. That's what he said. We need to have boots on the ground. And there are more, I call them warmongers. They don't want this war to end. Why? Because I believe that it's for Macron a way of staying in power, because his presidency is ending next year. But also to what I call the Ponzi scheme. You know, we pump more money in. Even that they are discussing now that we have to. I go back during COVID. We had this extraordinary measure that we had a 800 billion euro loan, and it was a loan by the European Union, and all the member states were involved. But this is against the treaties. For example, the Netherlands, we have a very low national debt, but we are responsible for countries now with a huge debt, like Italy, Spain, Greece, all the southern. France is also a real problem. Maybe it's even the biggest problem. But our children are responsible to pay that back. And you know, these countries are bankrupt for 10 years already. During the economic crisis, they spend so much money to keep these countries alive.
Yeah.
And if you see the birth rates going down, they don't have saved for their pensions. So the amount of people will decrease, but this small amount of people have to pay the pensions for the elderly, and that is already a huge problem. It will never happen. So we know we have common debt now, which is really against the treaties, and we know that these countries are never going to pay that back. So the richer countries like the Netherlands and Germany, our children are for sure responsible for that debt, and it's just not fair.
So
and now they
you're
want
penalized
more.
for your prosperity.
Yes.
And then you're mandated by the EU
Yeah.
to pay everybody else's debt back to the EU that they originally took the money from all of you guys to begin with.
Yes, and now
it sounds like a plan of slavery.
No, but it's that's why I called it a Ponzi scheme, because that's what it is. Because now they have this war economy, and that's another topic. Now we have to be afraid of Russia. Russia will invade Europe, so we need to spend huge amount of money, and we need more and more debt. But let's be honest, Russia in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, they have accomplished to take 10% of Ukraine. The last 2 years, they have not moved a bit. So how can Russia invade Europe? It's just not possible. But they keep the people afraid. Russia will they will do it in the near future. They will invade the rest of Europe, and you have to pay money. It's always the same. There was during COVID. You have to pay money. If you pay more tax, then we solve the problem. Otherwise, you go dead. And this is also so it is abused. This is also abused, and that's why they wanted to move on. I don't know. I was really very hopeful that President Trump would end this war quickly. Unfortunately, it takes more time, and what Putin is doing is really brutal, because they started the negotiations about ceasefire, and then the same night he bombed really civilians. It's insane, in my opinion.
And now you have Ukraine, who has escalated again after 8 months of planning this attack, blows up their B-1 bombers. Yeah. What did you think when you saw? Did you see when President Trump came out very quickly saying that was not me? I was not responsible for that. I did not know that was going to happen. And what does that mean for you guys? This type of escalation, what does that mean? I mean, do you think it's likely that Russia will finally just say, I'm done with this? I mean, they have the support of China. They have the support of Iran. Why are they not just taking Ukraine and just doing this?
Well, first of all, I was really surprised when it happened, and I was also surprised that President Trump immediately said, I didn't know a thing about this. This should not be possible if you are the main negotiator for peace, that he is not involved. Who was involved? That's the question I'm asking myself, because the warmongers in Europe, were they involved? There were.
Yeah, we know Pompeo. We know Mike Pompeo was there running his shadow government. Mike Pence was there. Lindsey Graham was there in the war room instructing them. And I mean, allegedly, I guess I should say, but apparently, as soon as they are leaving their massively expensive taxpayer-funded trip, by the way, they drop these. They send the drones out. So I mean. We've talked about this battle in America. There's a shadow government that is going around undermining President Trump, and the implications for your country, for the Netherlands, and for all of the the EU as well, is it's not good for the people.
No, of course, we cannot prove that they were part of this attack, but it is a coincidence that they were at that time. And if they were involved, I think there should be an investigation. They should be held accountable, because this is such a brutal move. Try to an attempt to prevent peace, and what are the consequences? It's really insane. So I think there should be an investigation. Who was involved? Not only Pompeo, Cheney, Pompeo and Mike Pence, but also the European leaders. Because I know there are European leaders who doesn't want to end this war for their own benefit. And war is such a horrible thing. That's what President Trump said. Young men are dying over there. And even Macron, he said, we need boots on the ground. But My son is 23, and
Mhm.
what does he mean? That I have to send my son? Because this little guy, he doesn't have any kids. He doesn't have he has no he have no idea what it is to raise children um, and to have children. So he want to send our kids, not so that I've said many times, if you want boots on the ground, put on the boots and go. You know, you could let them go by themselves.
Well, those
I
are
want peace.
those are the consequences. Yeah,
Yeah,
those are the consequences that we're not talking about. President Trump demonstrated in his first term. I suppose, sadly for all of us now, we know we can have peace through strength without killing everybody.
yeah,
And so, unfortunately for us, we know this now. We have this knowledge, and yet people like Macron and the global elites, they think nothing. They think nothing of this investment you're talking about in raising children and then sending them
yeah,
off to die for a cause you don't even believe in,
yeah. For their own benefit.
for their own benefit. Yeah.
And you know, these people are there to serve the people, to make people's lives better. That is the as a politician, you should be humble and you should work hard for the people to make people's lives better.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing they do is stay in power, and they abuse the system, whatever they weaponize judicial system. They abuse our taxpayers' money to silence dissent and for managed propaganda. It's so evil. It's the things that they try to lecture, like North Korea and Belarus. These countries are evil, but they're doing exactly the same things. Those are not leaders. We should get rid of them. But that's the problem, because they're so powerful. It's for us very difficult to we are winning elections. As conservative, we have won so many elections in Europe already, but it's very difficult to come in power. And we spoke about George Simeon. We have seen what happened in Romania. First, they cancelled Georgescu because without any evidence, it was made up. This was cancelled because of Russian interference. And then second election, George Simeon decided to run for presidency. First round, 42%. He was leading. The second candidate, Mr. Dan, he had 21%, but he won with 53%, and George only raised till 47, something like that. Statistical, it's just not possible.
Grok was saying there was less than 1% chance that Dan's would win.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody was shocked and alarmed. And it is because George Simeon, being in that position as president of Romania, would have thwarted these globalist plans for World War III. I mean, frankly, do you see that, or do you think I'm being a little bombastic there? Do you think they're trying to move us into a global war truly, or do they want to keep it regional?
No, I don't believe that they want us to have in a World War III, but the games they are playing are very dangerous. The only thing they want, that's what I believe, is to stay in power, to gain power, to gain more power, but also to stay in power. And they play dangerous games to do that. It would be insane to call for World War III, but nevertheless, it's not helping the people. There's still young men dying now in Ukraine, and yeah, but it's also, yeah, we all know there's money laundering. Right after President Trump was elected, Zelensky said, well, the US government said they have sent us $175 billion, but I only received 73. So where is the rest of the $102 billion? But also Europe, my country, we have sent billions of euros. And where is all that money going? So there are people who have an advantage not to stop this war because they benefit from it. And yeah, I believe it's a very dangerous game.
From your experience, what do you think is the solution or the pathway forward? What do you see as America's strategic role in truly ending the war? And then what do you think? The Netherlands might be small, but as you said, they're one of the largest contributors financially to the EU and to the economy of the entire EU. So, what do
Yeah.
you see being the pathway potentially forward for a solution there, as best as you can see it? I mean, we need a lot of ideas on the table, and I'm certain there can be
Yeah.
things that come from everywhere. But you live there. You've seen this. You're a businessman. You've had to work with difficult people. What do you think?
Well, our former Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, he is now Secretary General of NATO. He was the reason I went into politics. He is such a pro-European, no, pro-EU minded man that he gave away a lot of our sovereignty. He is also a person that he's doing everything for power. He's doing. He lied so many times, and really, what he said, because our parliament tried to hold him accountable, and so many times he said, "I don't have active memories about that. I don't have active memories about it." You cannot imagine.
I can't recall. I can't recall. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but now he is Secretary General of NATO. Wow. In my opinion, he should never had that position. Maybe he was very good for the presidency of the council. I think that that was a tremendous job for him, but not this. He destroyed our defense system, our defense. He 1.3, 1.4% of GDP per year during his 14 years of when he was our prime minister. So for me, that's not helping. And of course, to achieve peace, you need both sides of the party, both sides of the parties. But if you have people who are sabotage all the attempts, that's the first thing we should stop. So this attack in Russia with these drones, it was a very intelligent move, and you cannot do that without the intelligence service of let's say qualified member states or the United States. I'm not a military expert, but it's just common sense. That's what I believe. Now we had the escalation. Russia answered already with 3 heavy attacks also last night. And now we have this new Bundeskanzler in Germany who said, okay, you can use our missiles to attack far in Russia.
So they can use the long-range missiles now out of Germany.
It's really scary. And so it's not that we are coming closer to a peace deal or a ceasefire. We are moving to escalation, but that's because of sabotage. That's what I believe. So first of all, what we should do is stop the sabotage. Who was behind it? And also, if President Trump was not aware of this attack, well, he should grab Zelensky by the balls, because he is the one who was responsible for this attack. He did that in the Oval Office. Then Zelensky apologized, but for this, I think this is insane. What happened?
Can you describe for people who are listening who maybe just don't understand? I mean, we in America, we have these pockets of terrorism. We have, little things that happen, but we haven't experienced a war or a war zone or had our cities blown up or been a part of any, massive effort like that. I think September 11th might be the closest thing for us, watching 2 very prominent buildings come down and all the life lost with that, but in the Pentagon also. But what is it like to live with that? What's the day in and day out of that? I mean, you talk about being the destabilizing and the fear that they promote. What's that like, though?
I'm 58, so I grew up in the Cold War, and as I remember as a young boy that I was always afraid of World War III, yes, and atomic attack, because that was what we were talking about every day. That was what the narrative was at that time on elementary school, etc. So the fear was there. and it's always about fear. It's always about fear to control people. So, but yeah, I was so hopeful November 5 when President Trump was elected, and oh, this war is going to end. And then President Trump has done tremendous things in his first days of office, but now it seems to be very difficult still. And of course, again, you need both sides of the conflict. But yeah, first we need the how do you call it, the collaborators?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to get them.
Who did this?
Yeah.
Who worked together to do this?
Yeah, they sabotage this whole peace process. And I believe that also the European Union is involved in this because I know there is an advantage for them. They always want to have a crisis. They have abused the financial crisis 2008. They have abused the COVID crisis. If there is no crisis, they create a crisis, climate crisis, and it's always the same. We are going to die. If you pay more tax, if you give away your freedom, then we solve your problems. And now they have this Ukraine war for 3 years going on. And yeah, it's their lifeline to pump more money in it. And yeah, I don't have the solution, but let's find out who is responsible for this sabotage.
And start there. You have been very successful in the Netherlands, raising up the Conservative Party, established leadership, and took the majority. You're now out of politics, sort of, but people are asking you about the future.
Yes.
What do you see your role being in the Netherlands and in the EU at large in the coming year?
Yes, we have new elections on October 28th. I'm not very hopeful that our, let's say, system parties who created all the mess will solve the problems. Unfortunately, all the new political parties, we have I will explain. We have such a different system than here in the US. We have 15 political parties in our parliament. It's insane.
I can't even imagine how you get anything how do you get anything accomplished with 15 different people with all the different ideas?
We need at least 4 parties to create a majority. And of course, and it's so strange because we have a party for the animals, we have a party for the farmers, we have a party for for business, we have a party for the migrants, we have a party for the elderly, and I always say we need a party for the people. We should get rid of that. We don't have a threshold. That's why it's very easy to start a new party and to get a few seats in the parliament. But also these new parties, they don't solve our problems. We have now the 3rd election in 5 years' time, and that is, and we have more dimissionaire governments than we have missionary governments. So it's not. We are not moving on. It's really difficult. For me, my heart is open to run for office again. But it's difficult. It's difficult because of my wife. She is afraid. We have seen so many ugly things.
Yeah, and for good reason. I mean, just to remind people too, this whole multiculturalism push, the massive expansion of immigrants into your country, and what that means for you guys. I mean, the Islamic presence is massive. It's scary. They don't operate the same way that we do. They don't think the same way that we do. They take by force and terrorize representatives who won't get on board with their Sharia and their Islamic agenda. Is that something that you're concerned about should you choose to run for a prominent role in the government?
No, that's not the problem. I think we should stop that, of course. And it is not that they take over by law. That's what they do. Because if you criticize Islamism, then you're an Islamophobic. They call you names like they call you climate denier, all kinds of things. But we give them the space to take it over step by step without taking up any weapon. They don't need it. Of course, they disrespect our values. Not all of them. Not all of them. We should not make this general. But after the attack on October 7 in Israel, it was massive what happened in our streets. We have all these Palestinian flags, and still every day there is Palestinian flags everywhere. So there is an army inside our country already, all young men with different ideas. They don't share our values. So there's a lot of work to be done, but this is not the biggest problem. The biggest problem are the left liberals, because they have made all the legislation in a way it's very difficult to solve it. We have all these international agreements. We have these agreements with the European Union, of course. The legislation from the European Union.
It's not favorable for your country.
Yeah, but
it doesn't enhance your growth and development.
No, but it supersedes also our national parliament. So people go out to vote, but nothing changed. You can. So we are in a legal trap. We can vote, but nothing changed. What I have said is that we have the most right-wing government we can ever imagine. Still, we have massive immigration. We still have all this money going to climate projects, billions and billions of euros.
Do the people of the Netherlands, do they agree with this?
No. There is the trust in politics is 11%. That was the latest one. 11. It's completely gone. So, but yeah, if you go out and vote and nothing changed, okay, it can happen one time, but it's now for 3 decades already going on. In 2002, I believe it was, that Pim Fortuyn was murdered. He wanted to stop illegal immigration. He wanted to have more integration of the people who are in our country. He was murdered by the Greens, by a climate activist or animal activist, something like that. And but so for 3 decades we ask for change, and people lose confidence in that. And can I solve the problem? I think I would have a different approach. I really would, because we as the Netherlands, we are per capita, we pay we have the biggest impact financial on the European Union. I want to stop that. I'm not going to pay anymore. I want to stop immigration. And I also want to stop with all this obsession for climate. Of course, we have to take care of the planet, but we as conservatives, we take more care of the planet than the Greens, because they are not. It's just Marxism, right. And we want to give next generations a good environment, a good nature, that kind of things. So we do take care of the planet, even more than the Greens. Only they have the name, and we are captured in a legal system that we cannot come out. That's the real problem. It's so complicated with the EU and all these nation states. And
would it be possible for the Netherlands to exit the EU?
Yes, but to be honest, this is not what we want. Of course, there was an Article 50, and then you said we quit. But I don't believe that is what people want.
Great Britain, when they left, they experienced a 20% increase in their GDP. I mean, they were thriving until the Labour Party has come in now. I mean, independence, sovereignty is the pathway forward. I mean, you've demonstrated that in your own life, making your own decisions, self-determining, developing business. Being here in America at the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, What message do you have for those who are watching right now in America, whether that be a warning or an admonition from what you see happening in our country right now?
Well, I think with President Trump, the United States is on the right path. But still, it's only 4 years. So during this time, it's necessary to defund all these NGOs, all these left-wing universities, to destroy DEA. That has to be done. I think President Trump is right.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, that's made its way with you guys as well.
Yeah, well, we have to. Maybe it's even worse in our countries than it's in the United States. But well, here it's possible to change it. And now President Trump has a magnificent mandate. President, a popular vote, a majority in the House, in the Senate, a majority in the Supreme Court. In Europe, it's so much difficult with the European Union, but at least that the USAID was stopped. That helped us. Huge. Because they funded all this nonsense in Europe also.
Yes,
taxpayers' money from U.S. citizens.
I want to make sure people caught that. USAID money was funding the DEI program, the woke agenda, in Europe, guys. I mean, that was a huge move to end that aid, to stop that spending. Yes. I mean, I can't believe the things that we've been responsible for paying for. It's just unbelievable. And how damaging, we've talked about how damaging and destructive to the family, to culture, to future, to the mental health of your country. It's just incredible that we've been a part of that. Yeah.
So this is what we have to do. We have to defund them and make them irrelevant. But still we have this legislation. And what I said, the European Union is for us the problem. So I'm happy that USAID has stopped that. But for America, my message is stick to your principles, to your values, defend your borders. Well, it's let's say the obvious things that we see as common sense. But maybe it's also an example with Prime Minister Orban in Hungary. He was the prime minister. Then he lost his position in 2010. He learned. He came back, and he kicked George Soros out. He closed the university, started other universities with conservative values, also the media, and he made this left liberal agenda irrelevant. I think that's the way to go. So it's not only winning elections and being have a majority in our parliaments, but we have to put all our conservative people in the institutions, from board schools to the UN and all the levels in between. The right people with the right values. The Western civilization is a great civilization, and we should be proud of that, and preserve that, and that we can only do that if we are in every level of society, not only in politics. That was the big mistake as classic liberals, conservatives. Give us the economy, you can have the education and the culture. That's what we said to the left, and they grabbed it, and now they implemented all this Marxism. So that is I believe that is the way to go. It's a long way. It is not something that we can solve in 4 years. The 4 years of presidency and a majority is to get rid of all the all the institutions who are fighting our great civilization. But then it's a long-term strategy. It will take 20, 30 years to get back on all this position that we. So we need a playbook, and we need a playbook with what are the most important positions that we have to fill in. win the election, start rolling that out, and make this left liberals irrelevant. I think, but I really believe that we make their lives also better.
Absolutely. That they don't understand that the consequences of following them is destruction. But
Yes.
if whatever we create, they will benefit from. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem quite right, does it, or fair?
Well,
Especially after the carnage that's left in their wake. But in blessings, they receive the blessings as well.
But if I'm going to run for office, it's really my goal to make everyone's life better, not only conservatives. Because if we make their lives better too, and they feel it and they see it, well, that will change their mind.
I think so too. Rob Roos, thank you so much. And thank all of you for being with us today. Take into consideration what's been said here today. It's time for us to fight and preserve what we have left and take back the land.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We'll see you back here soon. Thank you. Wonderful. All right. Hey, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in for that incredible interview with Robert Roos of the Netherlands, former European Union member. And all the stuff that he's telling us right now is a warning to America. It's a warning to justice. It's a warning to the future of our country. We have a constitution in place that preserves and protects our natural rights, and we have to take that seriously. We can't allow these rogue judges to adjudicate our rights away, and these slimy lawyers who are willing to take these cases that they know are going against our natural rights and our constitutional protections. I think I've told this story to you all before. I'm here in Denver. I'm outside of Mike Lindell's trial here at the federal building, and just listened to closing arguments from Eric Coomer's team. And, I see this as a proxy lawsuit. Dominion is suing Mike Lindell. Eric Coomer is just the face. He's just willing to be the face of this, because when I listen to what he claims is his defamation, what he claims is his damages, I'm sorry. I think I'm just too real about this stuff, but I'm like, he's had a therapist for years, and his therapist apparently couldn't help him get through it, except for that he did get through it just fine. He sent his brother-in-law a text message saying that he was going to sue the MyPillow guy because it was time to get money. It was time to get rich, I think is how he said it. I think that's correct. We'll have to check and make sure. And then in addition to that, he opened up a restaurant shortly after he claimed he was in the deepest, darkest despair of his entire life. And his therapist signed off on his health and well-being, saying it was good. And this is just after he leaves Dominion Voting Machines in May of 2021. He opens up a restaurant right after. And it takes a lot to run a restaurant and run a business, period. So apparently he was of sound mind and doing great enough and not worried about his life any longer, that he opened up a storefront restaurant. So when I listen to what he is saying is his claims of damages against Mike Lindell, again, I'm just thinking to myself, this is a proxy lawsuit, and it's Dominion. There's 7 Dominion attorneys sitting there representing Eric Coomer, and Mike Lindell has 2.5, sometimes 3. So I'm just sitting there going, this is really interesting. Keeping in mind, too, Eric Coomer sued 25 or 6 other people, but only one business, and that was the MyPillow business. And it seems to come back to the Cyber Symposium, how upset Eric Coomer was that Joe Oltmann alleged that Eric Coomer was on a call with Antifa, and that began the descent and the destruction of his life. However, his own Facebook post, his own messaging that 81 million Americans were F-tards if they chose to vote for Donald Trump. This is someone who was an executive at Dominion Voting Machines, and yet he didn't guard his rhetoric. He didn't guard his Facebook posts. He put everything out there. I mean, honestly, when you talk about how hyperbolic Joe Oltmann can be, take a look at how hyperbolic Eric Coomer was before he deleted all of his stuff. And that's another side note. He deleted a lot of the things off of his account so other people could not see it. In my mind, I don't know. I'm certainly not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney at all. But I'm sitting there listening to the final arguments, the closing arguments that are making the case for defamation and the pain and suffering that Eric Coomer endured as a public figure, by the way. When you take on a VP position like that, an executive position like that, with the largest procurer of votes in the country, Dominion Voting Machines, you're now a public figure.
and you take on those responsibilities of such. So if you're going to say things or do things that are questionable or challenged by the public, I don't know what to say. You're going to have to endure it. And his own attorney said that it's just maybe blows that Eric Coomer needs to take. And honestly, I couldn't agree more. And it looks like they might be coming all out of the oh, maybe that's a different group. That's a different group. Anyways, so they're wrapping up closing statements right now, and the jury will this afternoon make a decision over whether or not the defamation case stands. They are claiming that Mike Lindell did not do his due diligence in exposing the frauds of the voting machines, and yet we have to keep in mind how much evidence was prevented from being shown here at this trial. There was a lot, and witnesses that were not allowed to come and give their testimony. So you have to keep those things into consideration. It's really frustrating listening to an attorney close on things that you're aware of that you know that's not full disclosure to the jury. You know, much like what we saw and experienced in the Tina Peters case, not being able to give an accurate representation of what actually happened, not being able to testify even though you're being asked questions, not being able to provide evidence even though that's the whole purpose of being there, is to bring forth the evidence that will help the jury make the best decision with the information that they have. But when they're so dramatically restricted on what information can be brought to the trial, to the jury to make this informed decision, that is unbelievably frustrating. And it feels false to me. It seems false to me. So we're going to see what happens, guys. We've been paying obviously great attention, and I don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where the jury is going to lean. We don't know what they're going to decide. Will Mike Lindell have made a compelling case for himself and for his right to free speech and for his right to dictate what his own businesses do? One of the interesting charges is conspiracy, believe it or not. These people, I know. We're not allowed to believe in conspiracies, apparently, but there's a conspiracy here that Mike Lindell conspired with his own self as the CEO of MyPillow, share majority holder, and also as the share majority holder of Frank's Speech. They conspired together to go after Eric Coomer and defame him. And that was a really far reach. And I'm just hoping and trusting that there must be some business owners on that jury, because you understand, if you run a business, that everybody is doing what they need to do in order to make things go. And the reality of the Cyber Symposium was that it was the greatest launch of a conservative news company, period. They were promoting an event that was going to be completely transparent to the public, was going to allow for all of the experts to come together, look at the data, and make a determination. I'm failing to see how that is a conspiracy to what? To expose the public to accurate information so they can start making a decision. I know this, that had it not been for the Cyber Symposium, we wouldn't be looking at things that we're looking at now. We wouldn't have dissected Georgia, the Arizona audit. We wouldn't have looked at Colorado so intensely. We wouldn't know about Darleaf's work or his exposing of the evidence he has. We wouldn't know about California's fraud. We wouldn't know about Wisconsin and what's happened there. This effort that Mike Lindell launched at the Cyber Symposium, it brought people together, even people who were obviously critical of the venture and wanted to go there to expose that this was not true, that there was no interference in our elections. Only the problem with that is, guys, as we all know and understand, that's not true. It's not true. Dr. Halderman, who Coomer's attorney has mentioned many, many times in closing, wrote his own 9-point insecurity on the electronic voting machines from 2016 when the Democrats lost the election. But now that President Trump is in, he's changed his position on that and says that largely they're secure. Sure, there's problems every now and then, but you guys, nothing's changed in the certification of these machines across the country. Nothing's changed. They have not been recertified. They are not meeting the new standards. They have a certain timeline, 180 days from March 25th to meet the standards, or they are not going to be certified. They're not going to be certified and useful in elections. So there's a lot that's happening, and there is a lot of distortions of the truth that are happening here. I was thinking about this. It's a little bit like this, listening to Coomer's attorneys, okay? Taking things that are innocent, that have no malice to them, have no edge to them. It'd be like me telling you this story right here. Yeah, it's, my daughter ran off and, hooked up with a man and spit out a couple babies. I haven't talked to her in a couple months. It's just terrible. That's one story. But you know what the truth of the story is? My daughter got married. My daughter and her husband had 2 children. And oh, by the way, because I've been traveling so much, I haven't seen her in a few months. That's the real story. But the former is what I'm hearing here from Eric Coomer's attorneys. They've taken things that are innocent, that was the useful, really the useful method of media to inform the public and let them decide. To bring all of the experts to the table. Mike Lindell consulted with over 35 cyber experts, tech experts, people who were experts in their fields, and that's still not enough for Eric Coomer's team. It's still not enough for them. They've cherry picked a couple of like Haldermans who, like I just said, had already demonstrated he believed that the machines and still believes that the machines are insecure. But for the purposes of this trial, he thinks Eric Coomer's amazing and met him one time and had a conversation with him and has decided wow, he really knows his stuff. And maybe he does. But the point of this trial was defamation. He has to prove malice. He has to prove that Mike Lindell purposely went after him and specifically targeted him, this conspiracy of interests of his companies to target Eric Coomer, to spread false information that he knew was false and that he was spreading anyway. They're going to be hard pressed to prove that because the evidence just does not show that. And although they've tried to tie a few pieces together, it's really like the story I shared with you. It's all in the spirit of the information that's being shared. And they have a certain spirit they want to present to the jury. There's no doubt. Good on them. That's what they're supposed to do. They're paid a lot of money by Dominion CEOs to do that. So they better show up and do their job, right? On the other hand, we're going to hear from Mike Lindell's attorneys here shortly in their closing arguments and how they are going to present Mike's defense. And so we're going to be anxious to hear that, and we'll be sharing more information later. I want to thank you guys for being with us here on X America News. And I want to remind you also, check out our amazing sponsor, shopwithpatriots.com, your great American manufacturer who is supporting America First, American made, and American workers with all of your everyday use items, from the shampoo you shampoo your hair with, your cosmetics, your skincare, your supplementation, and so much more. Remember, we have the beef, guys. No mRNA, no antibiotics, none of that junk. Go check it out today. Shopwithpatriots.com. We can't exist without our great sponsors, and thankfully, we didn't have to sell our souls to be in agreement with them. You will love them. Go check it out today. Shopwithpatriots.com. And as a closing note, as this is wrapping, no matter what the outcome is, there has been an incredible outpouring of information that will be utilized after this trial is over. The acknowledgement by Coomer's attorneys in their closing arguments that electronic voting machines are not secure is one of my favorite moments, actually. It further just drills home the point that we need to secure our election platforms. That's been Mike Lindell's entire mission. I stand with Mike Lindell on that. Thank you all for being with us today. Remember, all that is necessary for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do absolutely nothing. And since we are not descended from weak men, let's put our shoulder to the plow, guys, and save our country. We'll see you back here soon.